My brother got married last weekend, and I only discovered it when the photos appeared on my phone screen, images that said more than his silence ever could. There was no call, no message, not even a casual warning. Just his smiling face under strings of golden lights beside a woman who, to this day, barely knows who I am. When I finally reached him, it wasn't his voice that greeted me. She took the phone first, her words clear, deliberate, and meant to wound. "My wife doesn't want you there," she said, letting him hide behind her. "She thinks you're pathetic." He stayed silent. Didn't defend me. Didn't even breathe a word. I didn't cry or argue. I simply stepped back, took a long measured look at the life I had helped him build, and made a decision that would rewrite theirs completely. "Before I continue, tell me, where are you listening from? And in my place, what would you have done?" My name is Clara Winslow, and for most of my life, I believed loyalty alone could hold a family together. I learned otherwise at the age of 23, standing in a cold hospital corridor, signing documents I could barely read through tears. My 14-year-old brother, Noah, was pressed against me, sobbing into my coat. Our mother, Margaret, had slipped away before we understood what was happening. In that moment, something inside me fractured and reformed. I wasn't just his sister anymore. From then on, I became the one who solved problems, who made sure the rent was paid and the fridge was full, who shielded him from the kind of grief that swallows people whole. I carried that responsibility for 15 years. While my friends chased promotions and new apartments in trendier corners of Kansas City, I took whatever jobs I could find. Temporary office work by day, event staffing by night, freelance marketing squeezed in between. Noah had school books to buy, college applications to submit, robotics club fees, senior trips, and a dorm room that needed furnishing. I paid for all of it, not because anyone demanded it, but because I couldn't bear to see him slip through the cracks our mother's death had left behind. When he began college, I purchased a small loft in the Crossroads district under my own name. I told him it was for convenience, but in truth, I wanted him to have a steady foundation he couldn't yet earn on his own. Quietly, I saved for the Europe trip he always dreamed of taking after graduation, small deposits tucked into a travel fund until it reached $35,000. He used to joke that once he became an engineer, he'd pay me back with interest. I laughed each time and told him that families don't keep score. At least, that's what I used to believe. People think betrayal arrives like a sudden crash. For me, it crept in softly like a dull ache I couldn't name. Months before the wedding, his calls grew infrequent. His messages shortened to single lines. He began saying things like, "I've got it handled," or "You don't have to worry about me anymore," in a tone that made my care sound like interference. When he introduced me to his girlfriend, Ava, I noticed the way her eyes scanned me from head to toe, not curious but calculating. She was one of those polished women whose confidence came pre-packaged with perfect lighting and curated smiles. An influencer, constantly aware of angles and presentation. Noah seemed spellbound by her energy. I told myself it was normal. People grow, fall in love, drift into new versions of themselves. But deep down, I felt the distance forming, first between phone calls, then between words. Still, I never imagined I would be completely erased. Not until that morning when my screen lit up with pictures of my brother wearing a suit I'd never seen, standing under lights I'd never stood beneath, next to a woman in a wedding dress I hadn't known existed. No text. No invitation. Not even a polite lie to ease the blow. I stared at those images and a weight pressed into my chest, familiar, heavy. The same one I'd felt years ago in that hospital hallway. Only this time it wasn't grief that struck me, it was realization. The family I thought I had held together had quietly decided they didn't need me anymore. My first reaction wasn't rage. It was denial, small stubborn denial whispering that there had to be some mistake. Maybe it was a photo shoot. Maybe an engagement party mislabeled online. Maybe Noah would call at any moment to explain that it was all a misunderstanding. I repeated those excuses as I dialed him once, twice, 5 times. On the 6th, the line went straight to voicemail. His recorded voice cheerfully asking me to leave a message. I'd heard that same voice years ago when I helped him practice how to pronounce availability. Laughing through retakes. On the 7th attempt, I realized it wasn't confusion tightening around my ribs. It was recognition. He was avoiding me. I tried texting him. Noah, call me. Then again. Just tell me what's going on. No response. When my phone finally rang, I exhaled too quickly. Relief and dread tangled together. But it wasn't him. Well, a woman's voice said, smooth and cold. I was wondering how long it would take you. Ava. Her tone wasn't surprised, it was smug, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. I need to talk to my brother, I told her. Put him on. A pause followed, then a short laugh. He's busy. We just got back from the reception. It was perfect. Her words sliced through me. I wasn't invited, I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. That's the point, she replied, her voice dripping with satisfaction. My wife doesn't want you there. She thinks you're pathetic. For a second I heard nothing. Not her breathing, not even my own. Just the echo of that word stretching inside my skull. Pathetic. My grip on the phone tightened. Did Noah say that? I asked finally. He doesn't have to, she said coolly. He agrees. In the background I caught the faint sound of his voice, hesitant, muffled. Ava, just give me the phone. No, she snapped, louder this time, making sure I heard every word. She needs to understand. We're adults now. We don't need her controlling everything anymore. Controlling. Of all the things she could have called me, that was the one that burned. I drew in a steady breath and said, with a calm that even surprised me, I paid for the loft you're standing in right now. I bought his furniture, I said, my voice steady. I paid his tuition. The travel fund you're probably planning to spend, that's mine too. I built that future for him. Tell me, where's the control in giving someone their entire life? She scoffed, the sound sharp and practiced. Exactly, she said. You use money to keep him dependent on you. It's pathetic. But don't worry, we'll cover everything ourselves from now on. We're done living in your shadow. I need to talk to him, I repeated, refusing to rise to her tone. Finally, Noah's voice broke through the noise, quiet and uneven. Clara, it's just. We didn't want drama. Drama. I echoed softly. From you, he said, his words trembling. You make things heavier than they need to be. Ava's right. I need space. We need space. You hovering doesn't help. I closed my eyes and 15 years of sacrifice flashed like old film reels behind my eyelids. Late nights spent at second jobs, unpaid bills balanced with grit, meals skipped so he wouldn't have to. Every moment, every choice erased in seconds. Ava's voice returned, triumphant and cruel. There, you heard him. Just accept it and move on. Then the line went dead. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling the slow burn crawl upward from my stomach to my throat. Shame, betrayal, grief, all blending into something sharper and colder. I could have sat frozen, could have cried, could have screamed. But instead I stood, grabbed my keys and drove straight to the loft, the one I had bought, the one they were now living in, honeymooning in, pretending I no longer existed. The hallway was silent, every step echoing. I knocked once. Ava opened the door only halfway, revealing just enough of her smirk. Really? You actually came? I'm here to talk to my brother, I said evenly. She leaned forward, her phone tilted like a threat. Whatever you have to say, you can say right here. We're done letting you barge into our lives. Behind her, Noah hovered, hands buried in his pockets, gaze fixed on the floor. The same posture he had the day our mother died. But now the silence between us wasn't mourning. It was cowardice. And something inside me snapped. I turned and walked away without another word. Still, the humiliation followed me all the way to the elevator. The mirrored walls threw my reflection back. Composed on the outside, wrecked underneath. My mascara hadn't run. My hair was still perfectly pinned. Somehow that made it worse. I looked like a woman in control, but I didn't feel like one. By the time the elevator reached the lobby, numbness had taken hold. Not the kind that softens pain, the kind that freezes it solid, preserving it long enough for it to change shape. Outside, the evening was warm, the city humming with traffic and faint music from a rooftop bar nearby. I stood by my car, breathing slowly until my pulse steadied. I wasn't crying, wasn't shaking, wasn't falling apart, but something deep within me had collapsed. The structure I had spent 15 years maintaining had quietly crumbled, leaving behind a wide, silent emptiness. And in that emptiness I could finally think. When I returned home, the loft lights blinked on automatically, a habit I had programmed years ago to make the place feel less hollow. Tonight it failed. Every corner looked abandoned, stripped of meaning. I dropped my keys, slipped off my shoes, and walked to my small office, the one built on discipline, not passion. Files, spreadsheets, project outlines, my life laid out in tidy order. I stared at the glowing screen and one clear thought formed. If they want independence, I'll give them exactly that. I opened a new spreadsheet, a blank grid waiting like an empty stage. Line by line, I listed every responsibility I had ever carried for him. Loft purchase price, mortgage balance, utilities, water, electricity, insurance, association dues, streaming subscriptions, rideshare plan, credit card payments. The travel fund, $35,000, saved dollar by dollar. Airline reservation, 2 premium tickets for the Europe trip I once believed he deserved. No commentary, no emotion. Just numbers, plain and unadorned. When I finally finished, the total stared back at me like a quiet revelation. I had built him a safety net so broad and strong he mistook it for the ground beneath his own feet. And now he resented me for it. A short, humorless laugh escaped me. Then I scrolled to a name in my contacts. Nina Alvarez. She wasn't a close friend, just my lawyer for occasional contract reviews. Nina respected facts. She didn't need family backstory to understand legal boundaries. She answered, voice still groggy. Clara? Everything okay? No, I said plainly. But it will be. I need to confirm something. I read her the list, every asset, every account, every recurring payment. Do I have the right to unwind all of this? I asked. Every dollar, every property, every booking, without giving him anything back? I heard papers rustle on her end before her voice sharpened. Clara, everything you just listed is in your name. Sole ownership. He has no legal claim. You can cut every tie cleanly, loans, bills, assets, all of it. The calm in my chest solidified into something steady. Good, I said quietly. This is about the wedding, isn't it? She asked gently. I wasn't invited, I replied. And apparently I'm pathetic. Nina gave a low whistle. Then let's make sure you're pathetic on paper too. I'll email the templates. When we hung up, I watched the inbox fill forms, legal steps, instructions. I printed every file and stacked them neatly on my desk. Then I sat back in my chair. Collapse wasn't destruction. It was the clearing of ground. And for the first time, I knew exactly what I was going to build in its place. Morning arrived without permission. I hadn't slept, only drifted between plans and a cold, crystalline calm. The sunlight cut through the blinds in thin stripes across the organized documents. Forms, statements, instructions, a quiet arsenal. At 9:01 I made the first call. Airline customer service, a voice chirped. How may I assist you? My name is Clara Winslow, I said steadily. I need to cancel a reservation. I read out the confirmation code from the printout. 2 premium tickets to Europe, purchased months earlier with the naive belief that my brother would one day take the trip he'd dreamed of since he was 16. Reason for cancellation? The airline agent asked politely. Plans changed, I replied. I didn't explain that the woman who called me pathetic had intended to use those very tickets for her honeymoon, or that she'd stood in the loft I bought, surrounded by furniture I selected, declaring that they didn't need me anymore. The agent's keyboard clacked softly. You're eligible for a 60% refund and a credit for the remainder. Should I proceed? Yes, I said. Proceed. I ended the call and refreshed my inbox. Within seconds, a confirmation arrived. Refund processed. The honeymoon was officially cancelled. The first domino had fallen quietly, without guilt, without drama, just the inevitability of balance restoring itself. Next came the education and travel fund. I logged into the investment portal, completed 2-factor authentication, and stared at the balance, $35,000. I remembered every deposit, $50 one month, $500 the next. A surprise tax refund in April. Each transfer had been a small gesture of faith that he'd one day walk through Paris, touch the stones of Florence, and see the world beyond his screens. I clicked withdraw all. A warning flashed about penalties, taxes, and early withdrawal fees. I confirmed anyway. Seconds later, a text arrived. Transfer initiated. Funds will post within 5 business days. The second domino fell. I closed the browser and reached for the mortgage file. The loft was next. I dialed Owen Barrett, the realtor who'd helped me purchase it 4 years earlier. Owen was brisk, sharp, and entirely uninterested in emotional details. Exactly the kind of person I needed. "Clara," he greeted warmly. "Long time. What can I do for you?" "I need to sell the loft," I said. A pause. "You want to sell it? I thought that was for your brother." "It was," I replied evenly. "Circumstances changed." He didn't pry. Owen had a gift for staying out of stories that weren't his. "Understood," he said. "Crossroads is booming right now. Units like yours get offers within hours. If we list today, we'll probably have a buyer by the weekend." "List it," I said. "No staging, no delay." "You got it. I'll send the paperwork." Within the hour, the documents appeared in my inbox. I scanned, signed, and submitted them. My digital signature looked bold and sure, even though the woman behind it felt hollowed out. By noon, the loft was officially on the market. A faint tremor of satisfaction surfaced. If Ava wanted independence, she was about to understand what it truly meant. That afternoon, the building manager called. "Ms. Winslow, I just need to confirm. Did you authorize the sale of Unit 5C? "Yes. The current occupants weren't aware," he said carefully. "That's not my concern," I answered. "All ownership documentation is in my name. Please proceed with any notices required." He exhaled slowly, as if catching only fragments of the story but enough to stay uninvolved. "Understood. We'll take care of it." I thanked him and ended the call. In my mind, I could already see the scene unfolding in that loft. Ava pacing, Noah confused, both of them flipping through paperwork they didn't understand, realizing that the foundation beneath their new life had never belonged to them. They had wanted freedom. They were getting it. That evening, Owen called again, excitement lacing his voice. "You're not going to believe this. We've already got 2 offers, one of them is cash and well above asking." "Take the cash offer," I said. "Are you sure? Usually you like to." "Take it." He accepted it on my behalf. The closing process began within 24 hours. I didn't tell Noah. I didn't warn him. He hadn't warned me about his wedding. Fair was fair. The next tasks were simple, almost mechanical. I logged into each utility account and transferred everything out of my name, effective immediately. Then came the streaming subscriptions, passwords changed, profiles deleted. The family phone plan, his number removed. The shared credit card, authorized user revoked. Every click redrew a boundary, replacing 15 years of blurred lines with sharp, deliberate edges. When it was done, I stared at my hands. They were steady. I composed a message, brief, factual, stripped of emotion. "You wanted independence. You have it now. Do not contact me again." Then I hit send and blocked his number before those typing bubbles could appear. 2 days later, the aftermath began to ripple back. Not in person, but through voicemails and emails. The building manager left a message explaining that Ava had stormed into his office, furious and demanding answers. She claimed there must have been a mistake. Noah had tried calling me repeatedly, but his attempts went nowhere. Soon after, Owen emailed confirmation. The buyer's deposit had cleared. Closing would occur in 10 days. Noah and Ava would be legally required to vacate. I pictured the moment they received that notice. Ava's shocked indignation, Noah's silent confusion, both realizing too late that generosity had never been entitlement. But I felt no triumph. Only clarity. You can't cut someone out of your life and still expect them to keep building it for you. A week later, Owen sent the final message. Closing complete. Funds transferred. I stared at the figure in my account. It wasn't just money. It was proof of closure. The loft was gone. The honeymoon was gone. The financial lifeline was gone. And for the first time since those wedding photos, I felt the tightness in my chest ease. Not relief exactly, but something softer, like the first breath after surfacing from deep water. 2 weeks later, Owen called again, disbelief in his tone. "You won't believe this, Clara. Your brother came by the agency. Wanted to know what happened, why you sold, why everything shut down." I waited. "And what did he say?" Owen hesitated. "Only one thing. He said you went too far." A quiet laugh slipped out of me. "Too far," I repeated. Owen's voice gentled. "Are you okay, Clara?" I thought about it, then answered honestly, "Yes. And for the first time, it's the truth." The real climax didn't arrive with phone calls, sales, or refunds. It arrived with silence. Days turned to weeks with no messages, no apologies, no outreach. Only the echo of a relationship that had survived entirely on my effort. And at last, the understanding settled quietly in. I hadn't really cut him off. He had walked away long before. All I had done was close the door he'd already stepped through. For months passed without a single message, call, or trace of communication between us. My world didn't collapse the way he might have expected. Instead, it grew still, cleaner, more focused, steady in its simplicity. I earned a promotion at work, moved into a smaller apartment that finally felt like it belonged to me, and even booked a solo trip to Yellowstone simply because I wanted to, with no one else to consult. I learned that silence could be its own kind of freedom. Then one quiet afternoon, my phone lit up with an unfamiliar number. I nearly let it ring until the end, but instinct made me answer. "Clara." Noah's voice was fractured, hoarse, nothing like the self-assured man who once told me he needed space. His words came in fragments, tumbling over each other as if they weighed too much to hold. Ava had burned through their savings chasing sponsorships and brand deals that never materialized. The canceled honeymoon had humiliated her in public, turning admiration into ridicule. Losing the loft had left them drifting from one short-term rental to another. And the final blow, she had left him, taking half of their remaining debt with her. "I have nowhere to go," he whispered. "Can I stay with you just until I get back on my feet?" I didn't shout. I didn't remind him of what he'd said, or of what he'd taken for granted. I simply inhaled once, slow and steady. "No," I said evenly. "You wanted independence. Live it." Then I ended the call and blocked the number before the weight of old guilt could slip through. When I set the phone down, I didn't feel victorious. I felt still, like a door that had finally closed flush after years of hanging unevenly on its hinges. My life is smaller now, but it's mine. I wake without that dull anxiety of who might need saving next. I spend my weekends hiking trails, cooking meals for one, and filling my home only with things I chose for myself. Cutting him off wasn't vengeance. It was preservation, the act of surviving without apology. If you've ever had to set a boundary so firm it felt like loss, know this, you're not alone. Tell me where you're listening from and what you would have done in my place. And if this story stayed with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.